Hey everyone, it's Sarah, and this is my service dog Bailey. And because we're based out of the US, today I wanted to cover some of the most frequently asked questions about the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is the main law in the US that covers service dogs. Sarah, here are my service dogs. Hi. Good girl. The Americans with Disabilities Act was passed into law in 1990, but it was based off of two older laws, which were the Civil Rights Act and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, which were passed in the 60s and the 70s. So the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA as we'll shorten it to, is the primary equal opportunity law that applies to people with disabilities. There are also other laws that offer protections for people with disabilities, but most frequently, the ADA is the farthest reaching and it covers the most areas. It covers employment, it covers state and local governments, and it covers public access for people with disabilities. One of the most helpful things about the ADA is that it has a broad definition of what it means to be disabled. So under the ADA, disabled people that are covered are anyone who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, someone who has a history of such an impairment, or someone who's perceived of having such an impairment. Because the ADA doesn't specifically narrow in on certain diagnoses or impairments that qualify, this means that the law is pretty broad-reaching and it can help as many people as possible as long as they fit under this definition. If you use some sort of corrective device or medication, for example, a medication that controls seizures or a device such as a hearing aid that helps correct for hard of hearing people, then you can still qualify under this broad-reaching definition. To qualify for a service animal under the ADA, you have to also qualify as disabled under their definition. Now, a service animal defined by the ADA is a dog that has been individually trained to work or perform tasks for an individual with a disability. The task performed by the dog must be directly related to the person's disability. While this ADA definition specifically lists dogs, miniature horses are also covered under the ADA as service animals, and they are the only other species of animal that is covered. When the law says that a service animal has to do work or perform tasks, what they mean is that it has to be trained to perform a specific action to help mitigate someone's disability, so help them with something that their disability substantially limits them from doing or somehow impacts their life. There are so many different examples of the different types of work and tasks that service dogs can perform, but I'll just highlight a few right now. One is diabetic alert. So an animal can be trained to sense when someone is going to have a high blood sugar or a low blood sugar, and they can alert them so that they can take the right steps to stay safe. They can also be trained to respond to things like panic attacks, anxious behavior, or self-harming behavior. And they can be trained to guide someone, whether that person needs guide work for an anxiety disorder or agoraphobia, or if they have low or blind vision, or many other reasons why someone might need guide work. The ADA does clarify that emotional support animals, therapy animals, and just general comfort animals don't qualify as service animals under their definition. The ADA does require that animals be task trained for an individual with a disability. So they can't be intended to assist multiple people, and they have to be task trained to specifically mitigate that person's disability. Although the ADA doesn't protect these other kinds of animals, this doesn't preclude state and local governments from passing laws about them. And it also doesn't preclude organizations from allowing emotional support, therapy, and comfort animals in their premises. So you should always double check with your state and local regulations to see if they even have any laws listed on emotional support and therapy animals. There is a lot of confusion out there about the difference between an emotional support animal and a psychiatric service animal. And the main difference is task work. While both may help someone with a mental illness, such as helping someone with depression, calming someone with anxiety, or other types of illnesses, the main difference is that an emotional support animal really provides comfort through its presence. And a trained service animal does specific actions or tasks that are specifically trained to assist an individual with their symptoms. Service dogs in training are also not covered under the ADA. A service animal has to be fully trained under the ADA definition to receive the protections in the law. The Fair Housing Act does, however, cover emotional support animals and service dogs in training, along with regular, fully trained service dogs. Another frequently asked question is whether or not service animals have to be trained through a professional trainer or a program. The answer to this question is no. Under the ADA, anyone can train a service animal. This doesn't mean that everyone will have the skill or the time or the energy to train their own service animal, but it means that they have the right to if they so wish to pursue that. This is another part of the ADA that is really good for handlers. It can be very cost prohibitive or time or energy prohibitive for someone to go through a program or go through a professional trainer to get a service animal. Handlers with highly specific needs or multiple overlapping disabilities might also find it hard to find programs or professional trainers that will be able to accommodate all their needs in a dog. And that's another reason why some people choose to owner train over a program. By allowing someone to owner train or work through a variety of different types of trainers of different levels, it really allows more people who might benefit from a service animal to be able to access that resource. As I said earlier, service animals in training are not covered under the ADA, so during the training process, handlers will have to stick to pet-friendly places or check their own state and local laws to see if public access is covered for them to embark on training in public places. Now that's all I'm going to cover of the ADA for now, as this video is only supposed to be an intro into the ADA and its impact on service animal handlers, but I hope to have some more videos coming out soon about how the ADA impacts public access in specific places, what rights service animal handlers have, and also whether or not certification and registration are required. And spoiler alert for that last question, in the US, certification and registration are not required for fully trained service animals. But I will get more into that in detail in a future video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support of my channel. I know it's been a while since I posted a video, but I have had a busy several months and I am ready to jump back into things. So thank you all for watching.